Claudia Laird has a hard time this fall. She has to be reelected for her next 4-year term. She has the nomination for the Republican Party, and she has no opponent. So the drama involved is who's the first person to pull the lever and gets to elect her. And then after that, the drama's over. Judge Laird is a graduate of Texas A&M. She has with a degree in international studies. She then graduated from the University of Houston with a combination Master's of Business Administration and a law degree. She worked as a private attorney in Conroe and is chief of the white-collar crime division of the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office. She became the judge of the County Court of Law #2 in 2011. And as I said, it's a formality. I used to have a saying that when you're doing so badly on a golf hole that the opponent says to you, "What do I need?" I said, "Well, you have to guard against a heart attack to win this hole." Well, that's the place Judge Laird finds herself, and we hope to have a lot of people in that position for years to come. Judge Claudia Laird.
Thank you so much, and thank y'all for coming out tonight. I was lucky enough not to have to do the whole parking lot thing and the campaign this time around, but having run 2 contested elections and 2 runoff elections, trust me, I've spent a lot of time in that Woodlands Library parking lot, and I know exactly how it is to be there. So I'm happy that God sent me a little blessing in the form of no opponent this time around. So my name is Claudia Laird. I'm County Court at Law #2 judge. This is my staff. I've come and spoken to this group before and explained what all my staff members do. I didn't have a picture at that time, so now I have a picture of them. This is Amber. She is our receptionist. Peggy is the court coordinator. I jokingly refer to her as my boss. She has to keep me in line and make sure I'm where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there, which sometimes can be a complicated job. And then everybody, this is the court reporter. That's the lady you see in the courtroom typing down all the things that are going on in the courtroom. And then all these other ladies right here are my probate staff. And those are the ladies that handle all the neat programs I talked to y'all about last time that I was here. And I'll go over that a little bit today, but I want to give y'all some new material this time since I know a lot of people come to this group religiously, and I don't want to give y'all old material. So let's see if okay. So what does County Court at Law #2 do? County Court at Law #2 handles all the probate in Montgomery County, and a lot of people think probate means probation, like criminal stuff. That's not probate. Probate is wills. So when someone passes away and their estate needs to be administered, they will typically end up in my court to get their will put into probate, so someone is named executor of the estate, and then that person can handle the distribution of assets. We also handle all the guardianships, which has become my baby, my personal project, and that's what I talked a lot about last time. These are people who are incompetent, they can't take care of themselves, so they need a guardian because they become a ward of the state. These people are commonly children with Down syndrome. When they hit 18, their parents can't make medical decisions for them anymore. So somebody's got to be guardian of that person because they can't make the decision for themselves. So you'll have someone with mental retardation, autism, Down syndrome. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have people entering later years in life that might come down with dementia or something of that nature, and their children are coming in trying to take care of mom and dad as they age. The other half of what we do is civil cases, and so those are your straight up vendor bender at the red light, contract disputes. He said he was going to fix my house and he didn't do it, or he didn't do it to a point where I liked it. And then we get all the appeals from JP Court. So we're an appellate court too. So if there's all those cases for forcible detainer, which is someone's not paying their rent and the landlord wants to kick them out, those all get appealed to me. And typically people in that situation are trying to prolong the amount of time they're staying in the residence. So normally they'll automatically appeal just because they know it'll put a stop to everything for a little bit longer, and they all end up in my court. Recent judicial accomplishments. This is kind of about me personally and what I've done in the past couple of years. And the reason I brought it here tonight is I just want you to know, on a statewide level, what I'm doing basically to represent Montgomery County. In 2013, I received the MAD Judicial Service Award, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I got that because I volunteered the most hours for the no refusal weekends that our district attorney's office puts on quite frequently to reduce DWIs in our county. In 2013, I was really honored because I had only been a judge for 3 years. The Texas Center for the Judiciary is our governing organization. That's who kind of governs all the judges in Texas. They put on our continuing legal education. They make sure we have enough education credits to remain judges. They put on they have baby judges school where they kind of teach us this is what you need to do when you become a judge. So that organization actually asked me to speak to do the probate presentation at the winter conference. So they have a winter and summer conference where all the judges from the entire state come to get their CLE. So after just a couple of years on the bench, they asked me to come and give a speech on probate, which was kind of scary, but I had a lot of fun and was actually rated best speaker at that conference and also got a perfect score in topic knowledge. This year, it's nerve-wracking when you're talking to a bunch of judges that have done it 20 and 30 years and you've done it 3 years and you're telling them what to do. And I thought, this is awkward, but I'm just going to do the best I can. In 2014, this year, that same organization, they published a book called The Bench Book. And when you're a new judge, you're so nervous because you're like, what am I going to say? What do I say when I get on the bench? And all the old judges tell you, don't worry, you'll get a bench book when you go to baby judges school. And it's true, they give you a bench book, and it's this big 3-ring binder, and every judge knows what it is, and most judges keep them up there. And you can flip through it, and it'll tell you things to say, like how to give the oath. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But it's just little things like that that you need to know that are in there, and you can have it to grab if you lose your footing or you haven't ever done it before. And so they asked me this year to actually write the probate section for that book. So I was the one who wrote the probate section, so I can say I wrote the book on that, which is pretty cool. And then the Texas Bar Association asked me to speak on guardianship at their advanced guardianship seminar. So this would be the lawyers from around the state. I gave a presentation in Dallas. And I'm actually going to talk about a couple of things tonight that I talked during that presentation about. And then that presentation was put on by video in Houston and San Antonio again. So those are the things that I've kind of been doing to represent you across the state. Now, as far as court accomplishment, recent court accomplishment, this is the first one I want to tell you. Now, I know I came in to talk to you about our Guardian Angel program, and that's the court volunteers that we get from the community to go out and visit all those nice folks that I just talked about, our wards of the state, that we just like to send people out to check on them and make sure that they're okay. So I came and I begged for volunteers here and got a couple, and I always go to groups and beg for volunteers. Jackie, this is our court investigator. I love Jackie to death. She was retired. She's actually 65. She probably wouldn't want me telling her that. But she's 65, but she's got the energy of a 20-year-old. So she was retired and she got bored and she wanted to go back into the workforce. And she's a lawyer. She's lived in our community 20 years. And so she came to work for me. And the first thing she did to bolster this program is she got a contract with Lone Star Community College. So now we have the kids from the social services degree program coming and volunteering to get credit with Lone Star, and they have to do hundreds of hours, literally 300 hours of visits with our court. So now, working with Lone Star, if we just get maybe 6 volunteers a year, we can get all of those, we have over 400 wards, we can get them all visited. So this was invaluable, that connection for our court. And the people doing the visits are also getting pertinent experience because they're getting out in the community and actually getting to do work while they're still in college. And Jackie also got the very last picture here. This is her recruiting at Lone Star. And the very last picture, she actually got an Employee of the Month in March for those efforts for all of Montgomery County. So I'm really happy to have Jackie and very proud of that accomplishment that she has done for the court. So, other accomplishments of the court. I think that shouldn't say 359. Last time I was here, I talked about, Judge Edwards, and I don't know if y'all know Judge Edwards passed away, actually. But he had a very large number of cases that when Judge Case came in, he made that court a criminal court, which was to help specialize the courts to get more efficiency. Well, Judge Edwards had a lot of leftover criminal cases in that court, and I talked about getting those transferred to my court. So we got about 600 of those in January, kind of plopped on top of our regular caseload. And I want to let y'all know that by the end of last year, we had gotten through 80% of those cases. And we're slowly dwindling off just the last couple. So that should say the 9th judicial court case transfer. We had a 135% case disposition rate last year, which means for every 100 cases that got filed in my court, we got rid of 135. Meaning any backlog that we were getting into from the 9th, we were completing more cases that were getting filed. And because of that, we've been referred to by our court administration office as the cleanup court. So they know if they ever have another court that they need to take a big load of cases and just plop them somewhere, they come to our court, and let me tell you, my staff just loves that. Like, maybe we shouldn't do so good. And that should, boy, my PowerPoint isn't good. It says resolved over 300 cases in 2013. That should say over 3,000 cases in 2013. And then on 2014, the 359th, and it isn't top secret, but it's not really out there, even amongst the courthouse community. They're looking at specializing either in family or criminals, so they have some civil cases too. So we're going to get, probably towards the end of the year, another dump off of a large volume of civil cases. We're going through, I had gone through at the beginning of my term all the thousands of probate cases, and we got a lot of them moved from active to inactive, showing that basically these are old cases, nothing's happening with them. Now we're going back through and making a second pass and looking at them again, and we're closing them to get them completely off the books. So right now we're working on closing over 500 probate cases. The oldest one is from like the 1890s. So this stuff goes back really, really far. So that's kind of what we're working on now when we're not in the courtroom. And then the last thing that I'm really focusing on, because my first term was really about using my business models and things that I learned getting my MBA to run that court like a business, to make it efficient so we can get all these great stats. Now, of course, it's working, and we have all our ways to do things in place. So then I sat down and said, well, what will I do next term? I need something to focus on, and I'm going to focus on legislation. I'm going to work with our legislatures, specifically in the realm of where mental health meets criminal law, because let me tell you, it's broken. And everyone's doing the best they can with what we have in place, and it's a very complicated area, so we have people trying to work on it to make it better. So let's talk about why this is important. So y'all all know we have juvenile law. So you have a 10-year-old that steals something from a grocery store, and he gets put in the juvenile justice system. And there are an infinite number of laws to protect that child. As well, there should be, because this is a kind of a special class of people. My question is this: if you have a 10-year-old child who has all these special rights and procedures given to him, what about an adult who has the capacity of a 10-year-old? They're getting run through the regular system. And it is causing a lot of problems in the system. And I'm actually going to go through a couple of real-life examples from Montgomery County to show you the kinds of problems that it causes. So here are my examples. Now this is Laura. This is my first law that I've actually been working on this week. Laura is like my surrogate daughter. I just get weepy when I think about Laura. I love her so much. This young lady is 32 years old. She has the mentality of between 4 and 6 years old. She has mental retardation. She is a ward of my court. She, besides having that problem, poor thing, she's also got seizure disorder. So if anything gets out of whack, she starts having terrible seizures, the kind that you fall out of your chair, you get bruised, they have to sedate you at the ER. And she, at the time that I became familiar with Laura was on antipsychotic medications. So if they drained out of her system, for lack of a better word, she kind of flipped out and attacked people that were around her. Not because she's a bad person, just because she's just not functioning right. So her stepfather's name, well, he used to be her stepfather at the time, was Ken. I'm not fond of Ken. Ken, and I'm sorry, we're going to get, do we have any kids in here? We don't. No children? We're going to get into some touchy topics, but this is what we deal with in the court system. So Ken, his job, he works for something called the Christian Sciences Organization, which I'm not really familiar with, and if you're part of that, anyone's part of that organization, I'm not saying anything about the organization. He just works with that organization, and I think it gives him some credibility because he says that to people. His job is he finds women who have been sexually assaulted, raped, and he convinces them that he has a procedure by which he can stick his fingers into their vaginas and clear that cell memory so it will erase the bad things that have happened to them. And then he has them sign a confidentiality agreement so they can't tell anybody, ergo, they think they can't tell anybody, the police, what he has done to them. So Laura's mother was her guardian, was being the operative word there, and she was married to Ken. Ken also volunteered at Laura's day program, which means he was around a whole bunch of other people like Laura unsupervised. And y'all are shaking your heads, and this is exactly what I was doing when I came to court. And what does Ken have to say about his stepdaughter after some accusations were made about him? This is directly from the police report. Kenneth advised several times he's massaged Laura's nude breast and butt numerous times. He advised he slept with Laura in the nude and has laid on top of her nude and with her in her panties. Kenneth advised he's taken showers with Laura and she's put a finger in and near his anus and played with his penis. Kenneth advised several times that those incidents were not for, and the rest of it said, sexual gratification, but that was for her therapy. What happened after the police got this report? Nothing. Because the officer said, well, she's an adult, she can consent. Further investigation by a state-run investigative agency actually resulted in Laura outcrying rape. So, I ran to the district attorney's office screaming, oh my gosh, we need to do something about this guy. And because of the way the law is written, the worst charge they could get against him was unwanted touching, which is a Class A misdemeanor, carries up to 1 year in the Montgomery County Jail and maybe a $4,000 fine. And this is a slap. This is like nothing. So what this does is it makes criminals target these kind of people because they know they're not protected. Nothing bad's going to happen to me. And where is Ken now? Active warrants. He has not been arrested. Offense date, 2011. Why is that the case? Because this is a misdemeanor. Our officers are out going and getting people that have been charged with rape, burglary, high-level felonies. They're not out looking for people who have Class A misdemeanors because they know there's no bang for the buck there. So my thought was, we need to fix this. If Laura had been a legal child, which in her mind she is, it would have been a felony. So I'm going back through the indecency legislation that is indecency with a child. I'm trying to rewrite that to make it the same things that would have happened to a child to make it a felony, make this offense to an adult as a felony. It's very tricky though, because when you start saying an adult human being can't have sexual contact, you're taking that adult's rights away. So what if you have a mentally disabled person that is functioning on the level that they are able to make those decisions? So you have to be very careful in writing that legislation that you're not writing it overbroad to take people's constitutional rights away, and that you're only focusing on people like Laura, that we all know when we see her, she could not consent to those types of activities. So that's what I've been working on this week. This is a ward who is been accused of a crime. This kind of flip side, where the ward isn't the victim, they're actually the accused criminal. And I can't remember this young man's name right off the top of my head, but he's schizophrenic. And what I have found working with schizophrenic people in my courts, people, schizophrenic dual personalities, it's not like they come in one day as one person and they come in another day as another person. But if a schizophrenic came up here and talked to y'all, probably for about the first 30 or 45 minutes, you would probably think, normal person. And then they start saying kind of weird things, and then you look at them. Kind of a little like Obama. I don't know. It's like the monitor goes away. Maybe that's the problem, I don't know. I'm not supposed to say things like that as the judge, I'm going to tell them. But so he is a schizophrenic. He gets off his medications. He gets in trouble. He runs down into Harris County, and the mental health authorities pick him up. So he finally came home, and part of his paranoia is he doesn't like taking his medications because he's paranoid. He thinks they're bad for him, and really he needs them. And so when they try and get him to take the medications at home, well, they become part of those people that are trying to hurt me, and he assaulted his sister. So he gets arrested, and he's jailed. And next problem, our jail, and I just let me give you a side note here. When I'm talking to you about these cases, and I'm talking about the police, or the DA's office, or the jail, or the criminal defense lawyers, or the courts, none of these people are at fault or doing anything bad here. They are doing what they're supposed to be doing. The jail is supposed to house these people, not give them medical treatment. The DA is supposed to prosecute them, not coddle them. The defense lawyer is supposed to get rid of the charges, not make sure they're okay. The judge is supposed to play referee. So everyone's doing kind of what they're supposed to be doing, but the laws aren't really written to address these things that fall through the cracks. So there's a big problem with getting your meds in the jail. A lot of meds you can't get in the jail. Narcotic meds, those inmates will take them out and they'll sell them to the other inmates, like you would a street drug. Sometimes they don't know if the family's bringing in a drug. The people at the jail don't know. That person from Adam, they don't know if that's a real prescription. They don't know what it really is. It goes on and on. So there's a big problem with mental health patients getting their meds in the jail. And let me tell you, when your meds drain out of your system, they get into your blood flow and they stay at a certain level. And that's what keeps you kind of on a smooth and narrow. When they drain out of your system, bad things happen. And then once you get back on them, it isn't like tomorrow, it works again. You have to get built back up to get them in your system. And then sometimes once you get off of them, those meds don't work for you anymore. So we're talking about very eggshell type things. So he didn't get his meds in the jail. Now this time, it was because his dad didn't know that he could bring the meds to the jail. So the jail never had any opportunity to give him his meds. He didn't bond out, so he stayed in the jail, general population. The jail doesn't know he's got schizophrenia. A schizophrenic doesn't walk into a jail and says, "Hi, I'm a schizophrenic." He doesn't tell them that. They're booking people in at the jail, think it's 1 a.m. on a Saturday night. The bars have let out, okay? I've sat over there with police officers. Just picture it, because you're picturing the right thing. You get some schizophrenic come through in this mess, you have 5 minutes with them. You're getting their name, their ID, running their prints, taking their picture, and trying to get them to the next step of the process. So he didn't bond. So later on, a couple of weeks after he had been there, meds drain out of the system. Okay, so the jailer goes to open the door, and he rushes, right? Because mentally he's not right. And so what does the guard do? He tasers him. He's not going to let him attack a jailer. They don't know he could have formed some sort of a weapon. So everyone is still, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. One of the side effects that he has when he gets off these meds, he's really susceptible to seizures. So imagine what happened after he got a good volt of electricity put through him. He was hospitalized. Now, what are we paying for? A private guard at the hospital for all the time that he's there, when all we really needed to do was make sure he had his meds while he was at the jail. So I appointed a temporary guardian and told the temporary guardian, for goodness sakes, figure out the med thing, go to the jail, make them give him the meds. This is your sole job, is to stay on top of this med thing for when he gets back from the hospital to the jail, so we don't start this little cycle over again 2 weeks from now. The jail refused the meds. And finally, the ad litem was an attorney, and he said, Judge Laird is going to be over here if you don't take these meds. And so the jail took the meds after they found out that I was involved. But again, you know, a judge isn't going to be involved with every little person that comes through the jail in this situation. So right now he's in a hospital because they went for a civil commitment, so his criminal charges are still pending. So he's off getting medicated now, but we would have never had to do that if we would have just kept him on his meds while he was in the jail. Now the DA at one point talked about indicting it as a felony. The problem with that is this man's never going to have a job. You know, he's always going to be kind of on our tax dollar. So he's on disability funds. If you get a felony conviction, you don't get disability, which I agree with. I think that's a good thing. The problem is when you have someone like him and he doesn't get his disability, no money ever. You've created somebody who will be poor for the rest of their life because they don't have any way. They're not like some drug dealer who got a felony and he can go out and get a job when he gets out. So again, very tricky stuff that you're dealing with here. This is another guy, and y'all have probably seen this one. And because it's been in the headlines so much, I've just used the Courier and the press to let them tell my story. So, and just keep an eye, if y'all can see the date, Sunday, July 1st, 2012. You'll probably remember this. We had two within a couple of days of each other. Remember the people going the wrong way down I-45? Yeah. This was the second guy. 3 people dead. Bad situation. The man that is accused of DWI, he ended up getting a traumatic brain injury in that wreck, which put him in my court for guardianship. Now the first thing that happened is he never left the crash scene. He went directly to the hospital, and from that hospital, he's a veteran. So he went, knowing that he had this brain injury, he's been, or he went at the time, through several hospitals. He ended up in a hospital in San Antonio, and they're doing rehab on his brain. He thinks he's been blown up in Afghanistan. No clue that this has happened. Not a clue at all. All right, so then you go to December of 2012, and all of a sudden he's being sought. And I'm reading this going, what do you mean he's being sought? I know where he is. He's in San Antonio at the Veterans Clinic. Now he's captured, and I'm like, wait a second, he was never on the run. he was in the Veterans Clinic in San Antonio, and so I feel like sometimes I'm the little voice in the back of the room, and I'm trying to tell the police in the DA's office, wait, I know where he is, he's not on the run. He can't be on the run, he doesn't even know he's being prosecuted. So what happened in San Antonio was the federal people, the federal marshals, came in and arrested him, which I thought was very odd. The federal marshals came in, but they're the ones who came in. So they took him out of the facility that he was in, getting better. Now, if you don't get better, you don't go to trial, okay? So we needed him where he was, getting better, so we could put him through a trial for what he did. The San Antonio jail, when you submit a letter of guardianship that I give you from my court, which is a court order, the jails don't pay attention to that. So his guardian couldn't bring the meds, they didn't give him the meds. What starts happening? All the progress he made during those months when he was at the VA going the other way. Then we have to wait for a very long time for Montgomery County to go to San Antonio to pick him up to bring him back to Montgomery County. So the DA's office actually came forward and said, hey, we knew where he was, he wasn't on the run. And so now we're in the court system. And so that's where the DA's office is trying to get him back. That takes a long time. Now the defense attorney wants his client in rehab. This is a booking picture of him, not from this offense, but from, I think it was a bounce check or something that he had done prior. But this is kind of who he was when he had that wreck. This is who he was when he got to Montgomery County. I always say, you can always see it in the eyes. Whoever said they're the window to the soul was really spot on. Because a lot of people who come in my court that are really not working right, there's just a look about them. It's very hard to explain it. But it looks like that, essentially. And you know it when you see it. So the judge denied his motion to reduce bonds, which means he stayed in the Montgomery County Jail. Of course, he's not getting his meds. And you can't blame the judge. Why? She's got 3 dead bodies, right? And you can't blame the DA. I mean, that's the 11th, Brett's 11th commandment, and thou shalt not drink and drive in Montgomery County, right? If y'all know our DA, you know that. So they're not going to back off of it. So then he's declared incompetent to stand trial. Big surprise there. So they send him off to Rusk or a place like that for 180 days. And now they've sent him back. We're in February of 2013 now. They sent him back to the jail. He's not receiving appropriate meds. He does have some idea that there's been a criminal thing and that there's this criminal proceeding, but he still doesn't quite get it. So we can't send him to trial. The DA's office is seeking a 20-year commitment. Now, here's my problem with that. My problem isn't that someone who kills 3 people drunk driving should get 20 years. I agree with that part. My problem with that is, this is a second-degree felony. What's your name? D? Okay. Let's pretend D, we don't have to pretend. She's the same person. Let's pretend I'm the insane person. And let's pretend D and I both commit the same crime. And it's a second-degree felony. Maximum punishment for a second-degree felony is 20 years. Now, what's going to happen to D? She's going to get to go to trial. She's going to get to say, she's going to make the state prove whether she's guilty. That's the first step she gets. The second step she gets is she gets a jury to say, well, now that we found her guilty, this is what we think her punishment should be. The minimum is 2 years. Now, this guy probably wouldn't get 2 years, but let's say D and I have done something different that's a second-degree felony. Let's say D gets 2 years. And then D goes off to TBC to do her time. What's D going to get? A parole hearing in about 4 months. D is going to be in and out of the system in about 4 months. I mentally don't know what's going on, so what do I get? 20 years. So why is the mentally challenged person getting the maximum with no jury or anything like that, but D, who has her wits about her, has all these steps and processes to protect her? Again, it's not that we let the mentally incompetent person off the hook, but we have to figure out a better way. And he is still in jail to this day because they don't know what to do with him. No one wants to let him go. He's killed 3 people, allegedly. My suggestion, which I keep standing in the back of the room saying, no one's listening to me because I have nothing to do with the case. It's not in my court. I think they should put him on a PR bond, which is a get-out-of-jail-free card. I think they should make a condition of his bond that he has to remain in-house at that veterans facility in San Antonio, so he's not going anywhere. They get him competent, send him back when he is to the point where he can stand trial, and let's try him. Get him in front of a good Montgomery County jury, and they'll probably give him 20 years. But nothing's happening. He's just sitting in our jail on our money, and we can do better than that. So what I'm going to end up trying to present, we have different specialty courts in Montgomery County and other counties. We have a drug court, which is for drug addicts. So the idea is, well, they're not criminals, they're addicts. So we should try and get them unaddicted so they don't just get convictions, get out, take more drugs, come back. That costs us all money. So drug court gives them treatment and also punishment to try and stop the cycle. Veterans court is for people who come back, veterans who come back from war, and they are suffering, a lot of them, from post-traumatic stress disorder. Yes, exactly. And so they have courts, specialty courts for those people, because we're the ones who sent them to serve. We expected them to help us. Then they come back specifically with mental disorders from what has happened to them when they're defending us, and then we prosecute them. So they're trying to get better at that. So I'm proposing some type of special needs court where you have a judge like me who does understand, wait a second, we're going to get them to trial, or we're going to get them punished, we're going to keep the community safe, but we need to take a couple extra steps. We just can't push this person in with the other thousands and thousands and thousands of people, because it's just costing us more money in the end. It's not fair to them, and it's costing us. That private guard, Mr. Blackwell, sitting in Montgomery County Jail, going nowhere. He's not getting any closer to trial today than he was yesterday, or the day before, or the day before. As a matter of fact, in my opinion, he's getting further away. Because the more you let them sit there, the more they dilapidate. And the jail, number one, if you ask most jailers, they don't want them there. They're harder to deal with. You have tasering incidents. They attack. They're not a medical facility. Okay, so this seems self-serving, but it's not. If y'all go to my website at claudiaforjudge.com, the reason I'm telling you to go there is I have links. And the links, one of the links I have there is to the Court 2 Facebook page. When I was running back 4 years ago, when I did have an opponent, the Eagle Forum, someone at the Eagle Forum during one of our debates said, we never know what's going on at the courthouse, and we can't be down there to watch you judges all the time. What are you going to do to make sure we know what's going on in your court? And I sat there, I said, well, I guess I can put it on the internet. So I started a Court 2. Am I going over? Okay, so I started a Facebook page for Court 2, and if you want to join that, it's in there. And so this is just the most recent post I cut and paste. 2 weeks ago, I finalized the probate portion of the bench book, which I talked about tonight. And then we had a law day CLE, so I mentioned that. And then I talked about a trial. Anytime we have a jury trial or a big bench trial, I'll put in there what the verdict was. So if you want to know the verdicts coming out of my court, we had one, it was a contractor and a homeowner. They were fighting over a dock, and the contractor won. And it was like $1,000 in unpaid contractor fees. And the homeowner actually got a little crazy and threatened to kill him. And so he got another $3,000 in harassments, because this wasn't the first time he had done this to a contractor. So trying to say, hey, you can be mad, just don't start calling people saying obscene things and threatening to kill them and their family. That's bad. So if you join that Facebook site, then you can get those if you want to know what's going on. I see that the Honorable Mr. Keogh is here. He's helping me with some of the legislation. Someone from law enforcement informed me that our Court of Criminal Appeals decided one of the statutes we had violated freedom of speech, and so they kind of nullified the statute, and that statute made it illegal for people to send pictures of their genitalia to children. That I'm willing to give up that speech right there. So he is going to be, we had a chat, and I'm trying to get that legislation written up. That I didn't put in a PowerPoint, but he's going to help me with that. And hopefully we can make that illegal again, because we probably shouldn't be doing that. So anyway, that's kind of what we've done, what we want to do. On a side note, someone said something very ugly about me in the Courier and ugly about y'all. Y'all are used to it. But there was a post, someone ranting and raving about y'all's group, and then they threw in at the end, and Judge Laird isn't as conservative as you think she is. You need to look into her personal life. So I don't want to give a speech about my personal life, but what I will tell you now is, as we open it up to questions that you have, if you have a question about my personal life, you don't need to go investigate. I will tell you the truth about anything. I'm an open book. So just ask me, and I'll be honest and tell you, even if it's painful. Does anyone have any questions about anything?
Actually, I got two questions then. First of all, we hear about rap sheets, and all this. Is there not someplace a central repository of information about a person who is involved and giving at least some of their history if they are schizo or whatever, so that law officers, I mean, they have computers in their cars and everything like that, they can call that up, I think.
That's part of the legislation I'm going to be writing.
And the second
That's
thing
exactly
is,
one of the things I'm going to recommend. No, right now they don't. The most they have is if someone gets to the jail and they've been booked in that jail before, and the jail found out that they have mental problems, the jail will make their own internal kind of in-house record. But the law officer has no idea that they're under a guardianship from my court, any of that. So what I'd like to do is get that type of thing so the law officer can tell, and also a notification so that when that person's arrested, the jail has to inform, the probate court if there's a guardianship, so we can let, the dad or whoever know, so we can get those meds, and we can kind of monitor, hey, he needs these meds. We need to get them administered.
yeah. The second thing that I had a question for you is regarding children and ADHD and ADD. I listened the other night on the radio to Michael Berry's show, and they had a doctor on there who is, went on almost an hour and a half about the dangers of those drugs. And I witnessed it with my grandson, 10 years old, and the doctor said people just write prescriptions for that stuff just because it's, it's
A lot of times
fashionable
the
thing to
teachers
do.
are pushing for it.
Pardon?
Yes.
A lot of times the teachers are pushing
Very
for it
true.
in
Well,
the
yeah,
schools.
that's what he brought out, was they just say, oh, he's ADHD. Is there anything in the court system or the legal system that can not pull out that or whatever?
There's nothing there right now. That would take some thought. I honestly believe that when I was that age, if those drugs had been around then, I would have been on them. And quite frankly, my mom and dad kind of saw, oh God, she's not paying attention in school and she's buzzing around. And thank goodness, my mom worked at St. Mary's down in Galveston, which was a Catholic hospital, and John Seeley, I don't know if they're still there, but they were right next door. They took me when I was a little kid to John Seeley and had, the little ink blots, all those weird things you see psychiatrists do. And my mom came to pick me up and said, what kind of learning disorder did she have? And the psychiatrist said, she doesn't have a learning disorder. She gets everything they're teaching her in school. She's bored. She's got a lot of energy. Put her in softball and soccer and dance, and that's what my parents did. The grades went up. No medicine. So I'm thankful that I had someone who actually cared to do a real diagnosis, and we didn't have those meds, because I would have probably just been put on them too. But there's nothing like that now. Victoria, I'm going to Victoria. She had her hand up second.
Just real quick, when they get arrested, okay, and like your question was part of my question, if they don't know, isn't their lawyer supposed to say, the dude's crazy, can we give them a 72-hour, send them to get an evaluation? Would that not be part of the judge's, wouldn't they be able to make that ruling, I'm sending him to psychiatric for 72-hour observation, then come back?
They have a program in the jail where they're supposed to identify those people,
Right.
but they're typically people who have already been worked by MHMR, and sometimes they'll let them out on PR bonds, sometimes they won't. It just seems like a lot of them are slipping through. And even when they get let out on PR bonds, then what? They don't make their court date. It's just a mess.
Well, yeah, and that was the second part. Is there not a criminal hospital where these people can go to wait for trial, get the help that they need and their meds, but they don't get, they don't get to run around the street?
Right. They send them to Rusk, and then Rusk keeps them for a while and sends them back. And then if they don't maintain competency, that's when they can send them to Rusk for the maximum sentence. And my problem is that becomes punishment. Because if you have a schizophrenic person, they're not going to get better between the 11th and the 12th year they're at Rusk. They're still going to be schizophrenic.
No, but they're still going to be getting the meds awaiting trial.
But they're never going to get to trial. Because some people, when they go, they're never going to achieve competency because they are that psychologically bad off. And so then they just sit and rest for the maximum term and then come back to us. And then what we do when we get them back, there's, just the local mental health resource, which is underfunded,
And
of course.
that's broken. You're
It's
absolutely
really
right.
broken.
That's really broken.
Really broken.
Really
Ma'am, you have two behind you. In the black and white stripe. Yes, you? It's me. Yeah, we're looking for the black and white.
Black and white
I'm
behind me,
thinking
and I'm
Jim
going,
people,
what?
it's just everything's going on.
The legislation that you're writing, does that have to be passed by, okay,
It's gonna be a long process. And then if it's not written in a particular way, it can get sent through the courts, they can do anything with it. And again, when you're talking about mental health people and taking rights for sexual contact away, again, boy, that's reproductive rights, and that's very closely guarded by the Constitution. So you're getting into this very weird area where you're trying to protect ones who really don't have the capacity to consent because they truly are like children, and not curtail people who do have the knowledge of the acts that they're entering into and they can consent. So that's kind of the trick to getting the legislation right. And there was someone,
Yeah, I was wondering if on repeat offenders, don't they keep records of the medications these people are supposed to take? And if they have somebody come in there, if they've been there before, I guess, they should have a record of that and make sure that they get whatever it is that he needs.
again, a lot of times the jail won't administer psychotropics or won't administer the meds because they're scared they'll get out in the general population, or they're scared they'll get sued for
Well,
giving
then
them,
they are
maybe that's not a good
solitary
prescription.
confinement or something by themselves.
yeah.
And a lot of times they don't know. If it's a first-time offender, I'm not sure right now on that one person, if you check the jail records, I'm not sure to this moment that it would say he's schizophrenic. Just that he has some kind of mental something and there was an outburst. And then I think it was one more.
As a citizen, I was listening to the same program of Michael Berry. Is there anyone you can recommend, any channel that you can go through and help us a little or something that you can think will do something about, I don't know, APP substance and things like that? And my other question is, besides that, you probably do baby. Besides that, on which programs do you think we can help you with?
The guardianship program, I see you've got an accent. I'm assuming you speak Spanish. We're getting more wards who are Spanish speakers, and I don't have anybody who speaks Spanish to go to visit them. So if you would like to be a guardian, we could use your language skills. We would love that. So, and we train, and so just I'll give you a business card if you want to call the court and talk to my coordinator. That would be one way that you could get involved, and it doesn't take all that much time. But we do have some Spanish speakers, and right now no one's to visit them.
Okay, thank you.